Hello, this is Taylor Garcia, and this is Module 4 for EDL 853, our special education interviews. For this module, I interviewed Jamie Cole, who's my building principal, and it is her third year at Hyde and being a principal. I interviewed Mrs. Kristen Heasley, who is our gifted facilitator at Hyde. This is her second year as the gifted facilitator. And I interviewed our paraprofessional, Mr. Giovanni Giardino. We call him Mr. G, and this is also his third year at Hyde. The first question that I asked was, what do child find procedures look like for you? So all of them have a very different view. So Jamie, Miss Cole, has our kind of overall view. So she said it all starts with a parent request or staff seeing the need for services. Most students go into something that we called a PSP, or a problem-solving process in our district, and that's a place for teachers to collect data, list any concerns, list strengths of students depending on what kind of identification we're looking for a child. So if it is somebody who's new into the PSP, they will spend 6 to 8 weeks there and will be reviewed every week at the child study team. Child study team is looking for, are the interventions in place working? Is the student growing? Are they kind of just flatlining, or are they kind of dropping and not making progress that they need, in which case we would see a need for special education services. And if it is somebody who's been in the PSP or a special case, then the child study team might move a little bit faster and say, yes, we do see a need for a comprehensive evaluation. So once we get to the point where we decide, yes, we are going to evaluate the student, we need a consent from parents. So after the parents sign the consent, there is 60 days for the school psychologist and the nurse to meet with the student. And then the social worker and the nurse will meet with or discuss with the parents just some general information about the child. And all of this has to be done on a time clock. So if it's a parent request, I've learned that it's 15 days for the child study team to decide, yes, we are going to move forward with a comprehensive evaluation, or no, we don't see a need for a comprehensive evaluation to be done at this time. And then, like I said, 60 days after, you get that written consent from parents. For the special education teacher, her side of it, her view, most of hers come from a parent request, or sometimes a teacher request. So she has 15 days to decide, yes, we're going to evaluate, or no, we are not. So she always gets in contact with the general education teacher to collect work product and see what level the child's performing at. And then she always does, with every child, she does a pre-screener, which is an online assessment that the student does, and it basically just shows what standards they have mastered, and then they'll keep going and going and going until it finally reaches that cutoff point where they don't have the skills mastered anymore at what specific grade level. So the three specific things that she is looking for, there must be a need, meaning that the interventions in the classroom are not challenging enough for the student. The work product must show that the student is capable of performing grade levels ahead. And then the student's IQ, which is determined by the school psychologist, has to be at a certain level for them to qualify for gifted services. And then for the paraprofessional, his view of it, he spends a lot of times in different grade levels throughout the day, so he's always looking for variances in abilities, and he does this for all students. He keeps notes and collects data. He shares any of his concerns with the general education teacher, the principal, and the child study team members, and lets him know that he has concerns, and he can add children into the PSP, our district process, if he sees the need for that. The next question that was asked was their most challenging part of their role in regards to special education. So Ms. Cole said that one of her most challenging parts is helping parents understand what can really be offered through special education. She really feels like there's a stigma, and parents don't want to put that label on their children, which is understandable, but they also need to understand that sometimes their children just need accommodations and modifications made to help them be successful. Even she said we have kids who are identified that their parents won't approve additional services that parents and administrators think that their child may need to be successful. So It's really just getting parents to understand everything that could be offered to their child. And then another big thing she said was learning all the documentation needed for every special case. We have an example this year of a very special case that our child study team, our administrator, and this child's teacher is working on, and they have been jumping through lots of hoops to get all the documentation they need to really show that our setting is maybe not the best setting for this child, and that they could be receiving services somewhere else that could really help them be successful. For the special education teacher, our gifted facilitator, she said the biggest thing is getting so many parent requests, because so many parents think that their child is gifted, which their child may be very smart but not necessarily falls into that gifted category. And to do that, it takes a lot of time for her to do the pre-screener, for the teacher to be collecting work data and work samples, and for Miss Heasley to have that child do the pre-screener, and then that child is being pulled from their regular education classroom so frequently that they're missing out on things in the classroom. And then for the paraprofessional, his view was a lot different. One of his biggest challenges was teachers not really using him to what he feels is his full capability. He said he feels like some teachers just see him as somebody who is below him, so they think that it goes, principal, teacher, para. So rather than using him as a co-teacher, somebody to run a group, or somebody to help manage whatever they need, he kind of feels that they don't use him as best they could be using him. So that was one of his challenges that he said, which was eye-opening to me, and kind of a good reminder that the paraprofessionals that we have, we should be using them to their fullest extent. They are highly qualified. They go through lots of trainings just like we do, so we need to use them in that way. The next question that I asked was the most rewarding part. So a lot of them, all said things about students. So Miss Cole's biggest thing was seeing students achieving at a certain level and feeling successful. Not only is the student actually achieving, but that student feels that they're achieving and they feel successful. And that is one of her favorite things and my favorite things. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons we all go into education in the first place. The special education teacher, she was a general education teacher for almost 10 years, and she said really feeling needed. She felt needed before, but now really feeling needed by her students. She is in a smaller classroom setting where the students say that they feel invisible, or say that they don't feel like they're seen or heard in their regular classroom. So allowing them a safe place, a place for them to be creative, a place where they can just really be themselves. And another rewarding thing for her side of it is everything is very standards based, so all the students move at their own pace. If they need more time on a standard, they can take more time and practice and master that standard before moving on. Or if they already have something mastered, rather than spending more time on it, it's like, you already know it, let's move on to the next thing. So that was one thing that's really rewarding for her. And then Mr. G said one of his most rewarding things was seeing those students who aren't identified and thinking, there's something a little bit off, something that we could be doing better for this child, and then helping them receive an identification so that they're receiving the services that they need. What was one thing that he said was really rewarding for him. The next question that I asked all of them was, what advice do you have for the supervision of the special education staff? So Ms. Cole said, hire and retain good staff that you can trust. Own the schedule, own the para schedule, the special education schedule. Know your students and your staff. Know where those great relationships are. If you know that there's a student and a para, or a student and a teacher that butts heads, don't put them together. That's setting yourself up for failure. So own that schedule. Trust yourself. Trust your relationships that you've seen built. Find the right trainings for teachers and paras when they are needed, and then continually praise. Especially, she was really big about praising the paras. Our paras do so much for the teachers in the school in general, and just reminding them, you are important and you are valued, and we are happy that you are here and a part of our team. For the special education teacher, she talks to lots of other gifted facilitators from around our district, and said that one of her biggest things was find what works at your building for your child study team. Lots of people she talks to, every child study team is different, but make your expectations clear of your child study team members. And then Mr. G said, allow cohesiveness amongst team members, across the staff, and make sure that meetings have directions and are relevant to everybody that's there. Don't get sidetracked. Make sure that you're using your time valuably. The next question was, how do you effectively work with parents of students? Almost every single person that I interviewed here said something about communication and how important it is. So Ms. Cole said open communication. Let the parents know how much you care about their child, how much you want them to be successful, and let them know that it's your job as an administrator to make sure that their child is receiving the best services that we might have to offer. For the special education teacher, she said, again, communicating. This is only her second year, so she did a big survey of parents and found out what did they like, what did they not like, what did they want to see changed. And another big thing she said was talking about the students' goals. Let that be known to the student and to the parents, and then allow them things that they can do at home. Parents always want to know what they can be doing at home to help their child, so give them those things to do at home. And Mr. G said the same thing. Remind them how important it is to be working with them at home. We can do all the work that is possible at school, but if the child goes home and doesn't do anything at home, or goes home and doesn't do anything all summer at the end of the year, that's going to lose a lot of instructional time that we've spent at school with the students. So just reminding them how important it is to be working with them at home. Working with regular education teachers, Ms. Cole said, reminding teachers in the power of two. Mr. G kind of touched on this earlier on, just he doesn't really feel like he's being used best in every setting. So remember that if you have a pair in that room, your possibilities are endless. You can be doing co-teaching, small groups, a whole group and a small group, flip-flop it so that you're not constantly doing the same thing. If you're tired of doing small groups and they're wearing you out, let your para take over and do that. So really being reminded of the power of two, and then make sure the teacher is reviewing the IEP and is really meeting all those accommodations and modifications that are legally required due to them being written in the IEP. Ms. Heasley said, communicating with the teacher. She spends almost 170 minutes with most of her students, so if there's something being covered in the regular education classroom, she loves when teachers communicate with her and let her know, hey, we're doing this in class. Would it be possible for you to do something with the students that you have during your time? And she loves doing projects and things like that and supporting things that are happening in the regular education classroom. And then for Mr. G, one of his biggest things was he always goes into the teachers and lets them know that he's there to support them in any way. He lets them know what he's capable of doing, like co-teaching, small groups, whole group, behavior management, whatever they want him to do, he's there to support them. So really just letting them know, I'm here to support you, let me know what you want. The next question was advice for first year administrators. Ms. Cole said, make those connections with your students, especially the students that are in SPED. They're your highest needs. You're going to spend a lot of time with them. Get to know your staff, their strengths, their weaknesses, their needs. And for the first year, she said, really just sit back, watch, ask questions. You don't want to go in and start changing things right away, because then people aren't going to be on your side, and that's not what you wanted as an administrator. Miss Heasley, one of her biggest things was listen to the staff. They'll let you know. And then again, she said just find what works for your child's study team, because every year is different. Every school is different. So find what works and kind of ebbs and flows with your team. And Mr. G said listen and observe. Sift through the information. Is it people complaining? Is it fact? Is it their opinion? Figure all that out. And then let the staff know why you're making the choices that you're making. Describing the role of special education and the building administrator, Ms. Cole said it needs to be a marriage. You have to have trust, and you have to have the same belief system that all kids can be successful, and that is your job, is to work together to find what they need. The special education teacher, Ms. Heasley, said that both are an advocate for all students, and they're making sure that if they have an individualized education plan, that it's being given to those students. And the paraprofessional said that, you're really meant to run the building, handle those behaviors, see the day-to-day operations, and then the SPED teacher is there to manage IEPs and any small group time. And the last question was characteristics. Having a passion for kids, loving them, understanding, knowing, and supporting your programs, and advocate for students.